Hey guys and gals, welcome back, fruitful listeners, to another episode of From the Vine. Today we are continuing our discussion on practical ways to tame your tongue in the household, mainly between the husband and the wife here.
Yes.
Number one on our list today is introspection. What do I mean by this? So the first thing we must do is begin to evaluate our daily communication with our spouse. So how are we speaking to our spouse daily? How do I speak to my spouse? Not only how do I speak to them, but even more importantly, how do I speak about them?
Yeah.
We did touch on this a little bit in the episode. Whenever I write these notes, sometimes I don't show them to Jessie, so she doesn't know that I wanted to speak on this in the From the Vine. So how we speak to our spouse and how we speak about them to other people is kind of something I was getting at here.
Yeah, so I feel like, just like with anything, we're such busy people, just in life general. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're so busy. You're busy taking care of the kids. And we don't always take the time to reflect on how we communicate with one another.
Right. That's the entire point here.
Yeah. So we really should, in everything that we do, we should try to reflect upon how we are holding ourselves, our mannerisms, especially with our spouse and one another, and try to improve on it. You may be pretty well at communicating with your spouse, but if you actually take the time to think through some of the things, it may be that you don't communicate enough. Maybe you don't talk with them enough. Do you set aside time just to speak with them? How do you hold your words when your spouse gets home from work, or if you haven't seen them for a while? How do you greet them? Do you actually think on these things before?
Right, and this introspection is something that we should be doing often. Right?
Yes.
It's not like, hey, I thought introspectively about myself whenever we got married and now I'm good. It's like this needs to be happening all the time. If you start to see issues
Habits.
Or you start to see that your relationship, like you may not feel as close to your husband as you normally do, before you start accusing your spouse of something, the first thing you need to do is take a look at yourself and have a little humility and just make sure before you start asking your spouse what his problem is or what her problem is, the problem might very well be with you. So maybe think about that first. Have a little introspective look.
Well, and this can lead to what you were talking about as far as going to other places and talking about your spouse. I don't think people do this intentionally. It kind of becomes a habit and you see nothing wrong with it. Oh, we're just having girl talk. We're just, me and the guys, we're just talking. We all talk about our wives like that. Well, that's not okay.
I make it a habit not to talk about my wife in a negative manner. And if I've ever said anything, it's usually the stereotypical jokes, but I don't even like doing that. I don't like the stereotypes like my wife never shuts up or she's so naggy or she's the boss. Like I don't like saying things like that about my wife in a public setting because it shows it reveals something about your heart towards your wife.
Yeah. And it's not that I feel like you should hide these things from other people. It's just that the truth is that if you're going to talk derogatory about your spouse and they have no way to defend themselves.
Right.
Like
it's a little bit of cowardice.
Yes. And so it's a very bad habit that we should try to break.
A lot of people do this to their spouses.
And actually, when I was reading Emma's for Mama, she was talking, and it might have been her other book, Abby. She had mentioned this about parents talking about their children, which it can apply the same to spouses. You could be in a group of people and they all just start, one lady starts giving, a good story about her husband, and then it leads to you being relatable. So you just...
And by these good stories, she doesn't mean they're good stories.
No,
she
I mean like juicy content,
My husband's a lazy bum.
But anyways, you just become relatable, and then you get caught up in the moment and you say things you really shouldn't. And you know what you can do to be the person that stands out in the room full of these women is you can say, hey, guys, let's just cut this out because this isn't glorifying to God. This isn't glorifying to my spouse.
It's completely dishonoring to your husband.
Abby gave that example because she has a good friend that is known to do this. If they are in a meeting or if they're out and about and one of them gets on the habit of just saying something that is really degrading towards one of their children or anything, she cuts it off. And I think that is such a good thing. And while you may be worried about someone looking at you, like, you did the honorable thing and cutting that conversation off.
It has to do with gossip, that's exactly what this is that we're talking about. And you want to do this whenever it comes to gossiping about anyone, but especially the person. Your relationship between the husband and the wife is supposed to represent the relationship between Christ and the church.
Well, yeah, and
if you are gossiping about them with your friends, even in a joking manner, this shows division.
Oh,
and it shows a root of division.
It sets your tone in your heart for later that day when you see your spouse. You're probably going to respond to them in a snappy, negative way because you've been talking bad about them, and you may even feel bad about it. So it leads to just a terrible evening.
Just not a good idea to gossip about them. You could also ask yourself, with my words, do I build them up or do I tear them down? This is more on a daily basis thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what we were kind of talking about in the episode about encouraging one another.
Exactly. So if I see that my wife is not looking herself as far as her peppy, happy self like she normally is, the first thing I should say before I say something like, what's wrong with you, is did I say something earlier? Have I been tearing her down unintentionally instead of building her up? Like, make sure before you get on to her about her actions that you come to the conclusion that it's probably not something you did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, speak life into your spouse because, you don't want your home drained of joy. And if all you're doing is constantly belittling or nagging, that really leads to just such a terrible household. Like, the demeanor of everyone is just it's not fruitful.
Right. And my last one on this introspective point is, not only how do I speak about my husband or wife to others, but how do I allow others to speak about my spouse?
That's good. Yeah,
this is very important.
This can be, I have found it to be necessary when you're talking with in-laws or your own parents. They will either take one side and always talk great about your spouse and belittle you, or the vice versa. They will put down on your spouse to you, and they see nothing wrong with it because they're your parents. This is never okay. No. And you have to let them know.
And even your close friends, like, it doesn't matter who it is. If someone's talking about your spouse, you need to, at bare minimum, stop that talk in its tracks.
Yes.
This is your other half. This is your exactly one flesh union they're talking about. This is part of you now that they are talking about. And you can't just sit there and let them talk garbage about your spouse.
And that can mean sometimes that you distance yourself from these people because that's just never okay.
That's really good. All right. That's all in number 1. These other ones are a little bit shorter. Number 2 is, again, practical ways that we can tame our tongue, is to use discernment. Does your opinion on a particular issue really matter right now? And I have as a joke that opinions are like belly buttons.
Everyone has them.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah. This can be hard because you want to throw in your opinion sometimes. But honestly, sometimes I think to myself, I have to do this a lot when speaking to others, not necessarily Cody, but anyone. I'm just like, I could say something right now, but it's not beneficial to anyone.
I think that really comes with, I don't want to say age, but it comes with wisdom. I'm noticing all the time whenever people are talking in general, or if it's my wife, I'm finding I will have opinions come in my head.
Yeah.
But instead of just saying them, I'm just holding my tongue because it truly doesn't matter right now what my opinion is about something.
Yeah, and it shows you that you can let things go, that you're like, that's just not something that I'm going to waste my energy, my breath on.
Yeah, and I'm talking about
moment.
everything. I'm talking about your opinion on what we should eat. I'm talking about your opinion on how a certain bit of decor looks in the house, everything from something small all the way up to bigger issues. Number 3, a way that we can tame our tongue, you guys, is to compliment our spouse. So let us not forget that taming the tongue is training the tongue, right? Not only, though, to refrain from speaking harshly, but also to intentionally speak kindly.
Yeah, so complimenting people sometimes does not come natural to some people. Now, I do feel like in a relationship, a spousal relationship, a marriage, it should be pretty.
And that's, again, more of what we're focusing on here. In general, that obviously matters, but in the relationship, it matters.
So if that's
way more.
not going on, then that can lead to your spouse not having any confidence. If you see something good in someone, why not bring it up? Why not say, hey, you're really good at that. Even if it's something silly, like, Cody does most of the notes on these episodes. If I just wanted to say, you're doing a really good job. Like, it didn't take...
I probably don't hear the farting noises, but he's farting up
Micaiah is our gassiest baby yet. Yeah. So it makes us laugh every once in a while on these episodes. But no, just something small like that you may not think they need to hear. Like, you're like, oh, they know they're good at that. Well, sometimes it's honey to them, and it's sweet to the ears to hear.
That's a trap we can fall in, is almost getting too comfortable with your spouse and forgetting that they need to hear a compliment about something.
Yeah.
So, like like her bread, for instance, she makes amazing bread.
Somehow I knew you were going to bring up
I tell her bread and her cookies. I tell her everything that she bakes all the time. I'll make sure to be like, man, this is so good. You don't want her to ever think that you're taking her actions for granted, or the fact that she'll look like how she's looking right now. She will dress something like this almost every day, you guys, unless something's really keeping her from...
You can't really see what I'm wearing a pretty dress.
It's nothing extravagant. It's just beautiful, and she takes the time to get herself ready. So every day I make sure, and it's not just out of duty, but it's because I truly think so. Yeah. I tell her how beautiful she is. So it's whenever something truly comes to your mind, and also you have to be intentional about this, because if you're not paying your wife any attention and you don't notice the things she's doing in the first place, how are you going to compliment her, right?
Yeah, so you have to pay attention. Things to compliment.
But be intentional about looking for ways to compliment them in every area of your life.
Especially if it's an area that you feel that they need to be encouraged in.
Right. Yeah, that's part of taming your tongue, is intentionally going out of your way to make sure that they know they are loved and you highly respect them. All right, so this last one...
It's funny.
This last one, number 4, is we discuss. Again, it's a way to tame your tongue. In order to tame your tongue, you have to teach your tongue the things to say, and that starts in here, right? And so we discuss how it is that we would like to be spoken to. And this can't happen if the way you tame your tongue is just to be quiet all the time, right? You have to have discussions sometimes, like, hey, I know you like to say this all the time, but I just want you to know that does kind of hurt my feelings, right?
Yeah.
How are you ever supposed to know?
Some things that are being communicated aren't communicated clearly. Like, I know you mean this, but I don't like
to give you an example that has I've never been let off the hook for this, mainly because she told my dad, and now my dad
tells everyone.
He tells everyone that I said this about my wife. When we first met, I was a different person, and I hung out with mostly guys all the time, and guys talk different than girls want to hear, right? and some of you watching this may even be like, I get what he's saying, but that was stupid, right? So Jesse said something about wanting to be skinny, and I'm like, you don't want to be skinny. And she was like, what do you mean I don't want to be skinny? And I said, well, you're not skinny like them skinny girls. And she said, well, how would you describe my body? And I said, you're more like
I said, you're thick.
Yeah, I said, you're thick.
He said it like it's a good thing.
This was us on the phone, right? So she went dead silent on the phone. And then I don't really find out till later how upset she is about this, but turns out you do not call a girl thick. Like I said,
a girl like me. Somebody might think that's a compliment.
Depending on your age, depending on the culture, like depending on the guys you hang out with, thick is like describing a girl with a real nice curvy bod, like just perfect, right? I've never called her thick again. So now I make sure that I let her know she's either skinny. To me, in my head, skinny was anorexic. That word just meant like you don't have any curves. You're just like a rail.
No, and see, I've always just meant good shape.
But girls are like, skinny means you're athletic. I'm like, that makes no sense. But okay, if the word is athletic that you want to hear, or skinny, then that's what I call it.
This is what we're trying to get across is
that's a very shallow thing. But like, that's the idea is sometimes you come from different backgrounds, and you may want to make sure that when you are reaching out to compliment your wife, that she's actually taking it as a compliment.
Yeah, taking it the right way. Because, I mean, we say things differently. Yeah. And I did not like being called thick.
No. And I don't like being called skinny.
But his dad totally got it.
So that's another thing. It's like,
my son ever did that. Please still stay with him.
You're talking about guys, right? And I'm all into the gym and stuff. And if you get called skinny as a guy, you're skin and bones. And she wasn't skin and bones. I don't want a girl that was skin and bones. I wanted a girl that had curves, right? Anyway, I better stop digging my grave here. I still will defend it to a certain extent to show that I wasn't actually calling her fat, but that's how she took it. I was calling her fat. So make sure that we discuss how it is that we'd like to be spoken to. So
yeah, I like it.
Yep. Well, that is it for this episode of From the Vine. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I'm starting to think that this is a 3-person hosted show. We're going to have Micaiah
is in like every episode. Pretty much none of our other videos leading up to Micaiah had a baby in them.
Callum was in our, wasn't he in our, one of them was in our video that went viral, right? Didn't we hold up the baby and say we figured it out?
Oh, that was Asher. Yeah, because that was 2019. That was a 2020 video. Yeah. He was.
So never mind. We did.
We're
gonna be known for the couple that has babies in their videos, but we're all about being fruitful. So there you go.
Look, I mean, eventually we may have quite a few children if God keeps providing, and we feel like that's what He wants from us. So we may have a little one in a video for a really long time.
Yeah, that's okay. That'll be our
Yeah, that'll be like our signature thing that we do. Have kids in our videos. We may need a more noise canceling mic for you though, if we're going to do that, because maybe it'll cancel some of his farting noises in the background.
Anyways, guys, we're so blessed to have y'all supporting the channel.
Yes, if you are watching this, it's because you are a member of this channel, and we so appreciate it. Your funds help support us, it helps support the ministry, and it helps support us improving and updating equipment so we can make better videos for you guys. So.
Yes, and we definitely value anything that you have to say. Make sure to communicate with us if there's any specific topic that you have in mind.
Right.
Because y'all's opinions are valued over just regular commenters on YouTube.
Exactly, because y'all are clearly dedicated. So
yeah.
Thank y'all so much. God bless you. We will see you on the next episode of From the Vine.
Bye, guys.